Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's one of these processes where I can't see you all very well, but I know you can see me. So, good evening and welcome tonight. We're here to celebrate all the things that we believe make Kingston great, and that's its suburbs, its community and its people. And I thank you for joining us on what is the next step of our journey towards a shared vision for Kingston in the future. I'd like to firstly acknowledge the people of the Kulin Nation as traditional owners of the land and pay my respects to their elders past and present. Also I'd like to welcome our special guests with us tonight. We have Elizabeth Miller, the member for Bentley, representing the Minister for Community Services, Mary Wooldridge. We have Monica Bladia representing Mark Dreyfus, the Federal Member for Isaacs. Our very special guest, Simon McKeon AO, 2011 Australian of the Year. My council colleagues, Councillor Rosemary West, Councillor Jeff Gledhill, Councillor Tamsin Beersley, thank you for joining us tonight, I said, on this very special occasion. Together with the members of our community reference panel, who you will hear more from later, our acting CEO Paul Franklin and senior officers, and a very special welcome to Dr. Robin Cochrane, the person who led us through this process when we started it just over 2 years ago. As I said, just over 2 years ago, we embarked on a project to develop a vision for Kingston in the year 2035. And it was decided that to be successful, we had to involve our community. How did we do that? Well, a panel of 10 community representatives, people from a wide range of backgrounds, was chosen, together with 10 officers and 3 councillors. And they were set the task of designing, overseeing and monitoring the project. And I really do thank and congratulate them, because they've stuck to the task at hand, and the results in the booklet you've all received tonight, the information, speak for themselves. Over the past 12 months, which has been the really active time of the team, they've reached out to our community and they contacted over 5,800 community members in one form or another, whether it be at our events, our festivals, council functions, online, in person at different community events. And those people that they contacted submitted over 13,500 ideas and suggestions. Now they range from a whole bucket load of the normal things that you hear, from multi-functional facilities, better transport, bike trails, cleaning the beaches, improved support for volunteers, to such things as a Justin Bieber park, and some of us have to say, who's Justin Bieber? To a chocolate fountain on the Peard Highway for the chocoholics. So they were wide and varied. Obviously, they've all been catalogued, they'll get prioritised. I don't know about the chocolate fountain. So there's obviously been a lot of commitment and passion by the team that are with us tonight. And tonight you will hear from 3 of our Community Vision panel members who will share their experience and how we achieved our aims. We'll also hear, as I said, from our special guest, Simon McKeon AO, who will talk about the importance of the vision. And it's interesting to note that yesterday morning I was speaking with the CEO of Hella, a company, an international company that makes a whole lot of electrical components for cars. And that company has survived the changes and are going to survive what's happening in the automotive industry, because, as their CEO said, it's so important to have a vision and a plan. And the other part of it is to follow that plan and take your team along with you. And when he said that, I said, that's exactly the sort of thing that we plan to do in Kingston over the next years with our vision and our plan. Each of you has been invited tonight to join us to share tonight, because you are community members who've been involved in making Kingston the great city and the great place that it is. Tonight, as I said, is just the beginning, and it'll take a very collaborative approach by all of us to make the vision a reality. To start formalities tonight, I'd like to now introduce Elizabeth Miller, MP, the member for Bentley, who's representing, as I said, the Minister for Community Services, Mary Wooldridge. Council was very successful in obtaining a community support grant of $48,000 from the Victorian State Government to help us engage with our community. So please welcome Elizabeth Miller.
Thank you, Councillor Brownlees. You weren't kidding, you can't see a thing up here. It's probably a good thing. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm delighted to be here representing the Minister, Mary Wooldridge, for Community Services. I'd like to acknowledge Simon McCrean, the keynote speaker of the 2011 Australian of the Year, Councillor Ron Brownlees, the Mayor of Kingston Council. Kingston Councillors, good evening. The Community Vision Reference Panel members, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. It's an absolute pleasure to be here tonight to be part of the launch of the Living Kingston 2035 and to hear the Council's plans and vision for the future of the City of Kingston. Kingston, as you all know, is a very rapid growing community. It has wonderful and beautiful amenities, most of which we all enjoy, whether it be during the day or during the weekend. And I have to say, I do enjoy attending the citizenships and welcoming the new citizens to the wonderful City of Kingston. As Councillor Brownlees had already indicated, the state government has made a significant contribution of $48,000 towards the plan and the vision of this project. I understand that there was some 13,500 ideas that were submitted where the community was consulted to ask them exactly what did they want for the city, certainly for today and for the future. And part of that has resulted, I have to say, in this very comprehensive document. So if you don't have one, please take one before you leave. It's very comprehensive and it outlines a lot of what the vision is going to be for the City of Kingston. So the process, as Ron has already indicated, was very well planned. It includes a lot of attractive places that the City of Kingston currently holds. It actually gave the community the opportunity to have input to their future for today and for the future of the City of Kingston. And that included businesses, parks, reserves, other amenities that people enjoy, and I think that's very important that as a community we collectively and holistically be involved in part of this process. We also looked at the sustainability and the environmental component as well, and I think these are very important factors and features to the councils of the City of Kingston, but also to its people, and most of which we enjoy, particularly on the weekends. Maybe not so much at the moment where the weather's really cold, but certainly in the summer months you've got beautiful amenities. So well done on that. So the Victorian Government knows that the projects like this require significant investment and planning, and I think you've certainly all come up with a great plan and a good vision for the City of Kingston. So I'm delighted to be part of this launch of the Living Kingston 2035, and I look forward to hearing the rest of what the speakers have to say. Thank you very much. Good night.
Thank you very much, Elizabeth, and I know you will take back our thanks and appreciation to the State Government for their support of our project. I'd now like to introduce the first of our panel reference members to make a presentation, Don McDonald. Don I first met some time back, and then we again developed, I guess, in a closer association as members of a group called the Positive Ageing Group. Don has some very good thoughts and very good knowledge on our community, and I'd now like to ask Don to come forward and make the first of our presentations tonight.
Yeah, everybody's right. What I can't see though is a clock, so you'll have to trust me. And thank you, Ron, and hello everybody. I grew up in the Prahran South Yarra area before it was gentrified, and in my Yale teens with a couple of friends, I often rode my bike to Mordialloc to row up the creek and, with a bit of luck, see what some of the fishermen had brought in, then ride home again, and it was always worth the trip. I moved to Kingston 20 years ago. Then there were stables, horses in the streets and on the beach, and the creek was clogged and polluted. So what had to be planned then to allow us to see the benefits today? Today we have bike paths, more festivals to celebrate food, wine, music, multicultural activities, and we have hundreds of tables and chairs outside cafes We didn't have them then, 20 years ago. What could life be like in 2035? How many private cars will there be to cater for? How much leisure time will people have, and how will they want to use it? How important is the legacy that we want to leave? Isn't it something we all want to do to try to make the world a better place for our children and our grandchildren? These are the sorts of issues that lie deeply behind the project. The median age of residents in Kingston is 39, and it doesn't vary much throughout Kingston. More than 30% of our community was born overseas. It varies from 19% to up to 61% in different areas of Kingston, and only 4% of them are not fluent in English. We expect the median age will increase. Will Kingston become even more diverse? It probably will. It's not only important but absolutely necessary to plan ahead, to work together in partnership to build the future we want. The planning should be informed by an appreciation of our demographics, an understanding of trends and a sound knowledge of what residents want. This is what has been addressed by the project. What really is the project? Well, it's an important component of community engagement and partnership. The vision will directly influence the decisions and actions that we all take today and move us towards a sustainable future in Kingston. The project had multiple purposes. It was to inform the new council when it develops its plan, to develop a shared long-term vision to guide future councils and the community towards achieving long-term goals, and to develop a research and data resource for the community and the council to use to inform their planning in the future. It came about, as Ron has mentioned, by a council decision in 2011 to approve the development of the long-term 20 to 25-year vision plan. To ensure that the project was a true partnership with the community, so that it was overseen, designed and monitored by the community, the council also appointed a reference panel with 10 community members and 10 senior council officers to play leading roles in guiding the project. The reference panel provided high-level advice and guidance on the design and associated issues of the visiting process to ensure that the community vision was provided in a way that would produce the maximum benefit to the community. It was possible because of the skills and experiences of the panel members, including the community representatives from a broad range of community volunteer and work activities, because of the knowledge and skills and experience of the council officers, and because of council's wisdom in appointing Robin Cochran as program leader for the project. We looked at what had been done throughout Australia so that we could build on their work to make our project unique and even better. The 6 stages of the project were 1, the naming competition, getting initial ideas on likes, improvements and wishes. Stage 2 was the topic-based forums, in which we continued gathering ideas on likes, improvements and wishes. Stage 3, the area-based forums, I'm sure many of you went to those, for developing lists and voting on 100 broad wish statements. Stage 4 was reporting the key research findings to council and to the community by releasing informative descriptions of the data. Stage 5 was the development of the vision and its release for community feedback, and Stage 6 was the final stage, the launch of the vision and the release of detailed research resources for the community. Today is an important part of that final stage. We did it this way because a best practice model was developed and used. We believe that the greater the number of levels in the process, the better the engagement and involvement of the community. It was a qualitative research project, a rigorous project led by Dr. Robin Cochran. The goal was to offer residents, visitors and people who work in Kingston multiple opportunities, ways and times to be involved. This led to the participation, as you've heard, of about 6,000 people. The project has incorporated 5 levels of engagement: to inform, by implementing a detailed and customised communication plan for each stage of the project to keep the community informed, to consult by offering a range of participation opportunities, to obtain community input throughout the 12 months of the consultation project, to involve by operating community members the opportunity to submit their advice, views and preferences on the broad wish statements that were created to capture the essence of the ideas gathered, to collaborate by including 10 community members in the Community Vision Reference Panel, and also in connection with promoting the project by implementing an ambassador program comprising of 12 of self-nominated community members, and I'm sure we have many of the ambassadors here tonight. Finally, the level of engagement that was ultimately most important, to empower, so that the community is able to recognise that they are involved, that their voices are important and listened to. Fortunately for the Kingston community, you're here tonight because of this. Thank you.
I have a vision that no one's going to fall down those stairs, but we're going to have to fix them up. Thank you very much, Don. And I said you've got, I think, part of the first chapter of the vision. I'd like to also welcome tonight two very special people before I introduce our next speaker. Our Junior Mayor, Daniel Pasante, and his mum over the back there, and also our Junior Mayor from 2 years ago, Olivia Gould, who still has an interest in local government affairs and has developed it as that grows, and they're both two very passionate, enthusiastic young people. So please welcome them here tonight. Our next speaker, Julie Wynne, is someone I've known for quite a while. Really don't see Julie out often, but she comes from a family that has a background in local government. But in her professional career down at St Louis de Montfort School, I don't think I've ever seen anyone so enthusiastic or passionate about what she does. She always has ideas and visions about doing things not just for the school and the school community, but the far greater community, not just in Australia, but even overseas. And she's always knocking on the door seeking money or support for projects that she wants. So she really, money, she says we need things to make it happen. But she's enthusiastic and works very hard all the time in just trying to make things better for those communities. So please welcome Julie Wynne.
Good evening, everyone. And as everyone said, the light is shocking, but don't worry, we'll get through it. As Ron said, my name is Julie Wynne, and I'm also a community member on the LivingKingston 2035 Visioning Committee. My relationship with the City of Kingston is different from Don's, as I do not live in Kingston, but I work in Kingston. And sometimes I feel I spend more time in Kingston than I do in my own city. My husband actually has just gone into teaching over the last 2 years, and last night he was at parent-teacher interviews till 10 o'clock, and he came home to me and he said, if people don't think teachers work hard, I'm going to knock their block off. And I said, you've been living with a teacher for 13 years, what do you think I've been doing for the last 13 years when I get home at 10? But don't worry about that. Anyway, I work as the Wellbeing Leader at St Louis de Montfort, and St Louis de Montfort is a Catholic primary school in Aspendale, as Ron said, and we are a very large Catholic school. We have 750 students and 80 staff. At St Louis, we are very passionate about immersing our students in hands-on education and developing successful long-life learners. One of the great things we are working on is our sustainable environment. Currently, as Ron said, we are developing a sustainability precinct which includes a new garden kitchen, state-of-the-art mind you, a bush tucker garden, frog bogs, bird ponds, sheer forest and an aquaponics garden. If anybody ever wants to come down and see it, feel free. Just knock on the door. We're ready to let anybody in. And money's always good too. But I won't say that. People see me and they start running then. Okay. Another area we are really passionate about is developing our student leadership. And we're developing our students into active citizens. One of our proudest moments this year was when Daniel became junior mayor. It was a fantastic day and we commend him for all his efforts in getting that award and becoming the mayor. And he is doing a great job in that as well. And it's a great thing too, because whenever we talk about events coming up, I just say, well, we've got Daniel, the junior mayor, and Ron follows Daniel everywhere, so we don't have to worry about booking him in. That's all right. We're doing a big Sudan project if you want to come and help too, shipping container to South Sudan. That's an interesting event too. As a school in the City of Kingston, we have a great relationship with the council, as they are very supportive in many of our school initiatives. In fact, I'm usually on the phone to the City of Kingston once a week, and if they don't hear from me, they ring to see how I'm going. They always miss me when I'm on holidays. I even send emails from Bali when I was away. As a result of my dealings with Kingston Council, I know how committed they are to doing things well. Therefore, we need to commend the council on how committed they have been in gaining feedback from the Kingston community members to support the development of the Living Kingston 2035 vision. Kingston Council were determined to gain information from as many sources as they could. Therefore, they developed and instigated a range of activities to get input from a broad number of members of the Kingston community. Over 13,500 ideas were gathered via multiple participation options. That's a really fantastic effort, and I tell you, it was a lot of hard work. Some of the things they did was the naming competition, which was Mark Your Mark, which they launched at the Carols by Candlelight in December 2011. 117 people entered, and the winner of the competition, as we know, was Living Kingston 2035. Another initiative was the Ambassador Program, which was launched on Australia Day in 2012. 63 people signed up to support the project. These people did a fantastic job getting out and about in the community, finding out the thoughts and ideas of the people of Kingston. Another important feature of the Living Kingston 2035 project was the gathering of data, surveying the community through 21st century online technology. 1,535 people completed online submissions. 700 City of Kingstons used the smartphone app. 4,100 votes were collected on online voting platforms, and 2,642 people visited the Living Kingston website. To further support the collection of data, professionally facilitated community forums were held. 300 people attended the 2 series of community forums. Theme-based forums included discussions on children and young people, safe and clean cities, free moving and accessible cities, stewardship on our environment, vibrant local economies, arts, culture and heritage, our changing population, our built environments, parks and open spaces, strong and healthy communities. These forums were held across Kingston to allow opportunities for many members of the community to contribute. And that was a really big thing about getting as many people to have a say as possible. Staff forums were also held at the council. This was a really good day. I went down to the school competitions. This was where this year Daniel won, but last year another boy won. And what they talked about was what Kingston would look like in 2035. This was a great example of how children could have an input on what our future would look like. In the competition, students addressed the question of Living Kingston 2035, what would it look like? The students came up with some fantastic ideas that really were original and different. And Ron stole my thunder when he talked about the chocolate fountain, but there was another really good idea which was putting a tram track down the middle of Nepean Highway, which I thought was not a bad idea, really. What do you think? We should also commend all the councillors and council staff, members of the Visioning Committee and the ambassadors for all their commitment to the project. Many of these people attended numerous events such as the Globe to Globe Music Festival, community markets, farmers markets, Morty Out by the Bay, shopping centres, Melbourne Business Awards, village committee meetings, Kingston school events, Kingston Harvest Festivals and a whole lot more. Now, how was all this data turned into a vision, you may ask? From the initial ideas, theme-based forums were held, online submissions and surveys were run, and they developed 100 wish statements. The wish statements were voted on, and then from this information we collated a report. It was analysed and a draft vision was developed. The draft vision was then released again for more feedback, and now, after all the hours of hard work and all those people going out and doing those wonderful things, I am very pleased to officially launch the Living Kingston 2035 vision.
Throughout 2012, more than 5,800 people in our community told us what they wished for the City of Kingston in 2035. This is our shared vision. From more than 13,000 ideas gathered, it's an exciting picture of where we want to be.
There's a simple principle underlying Living Kingston. This is a place where people love to live. We want to keep it that way and make it even better. So we're taking the steps now to create the Kingston of 2035, a city which has everything we're renowned for now and everything we'll want in the future.
The Kingston of 2035 will be safe, supportive and full of opportunities for people of all ages, backgrounds and abilities to learn, grow and contribute. A place where we can live productive, happy lives. This is the future you want for Kingston, growing and thriving, changing and evolving, but staying the place we love to live.
In 2035, Kingston will be a well-designed city with attractive places and unique local neighbourhoods. As a city within a city, in 2035, the City of Kingston will be a truly diverse but harmonious community with all the right connections. This Kingston character will begin with our urban design, successfully integrating our housing, industrial precincts, businesses and shops with parkland, sports precincts and recreational spaces. Planning will protect our green wedge, parklands and waterways, preserving the appeal of our healthy natural assets and especially our 13 kilometres of beaches. Vital infrastructure will be securely in place to support this growth.
In managing our flexibility and risks, we will be equipped to accommodate any changes in our environment and weather. Our community spaces will be full of activity as we enjoy quality facilities, a balance of indoor and outdoor amenities, from children's playgrounds and sports ovals to bike paths and indoor leisure centres. The look of our neighbourhoods will keep changing and evolving through a mix of renovation, public art and cultural activities, and always reflecting our pride in where we live. People wanting to live in Kingston will be able to choose from many different types of housing at a range of prices, integrated into harmonious neighbourhoods and serviced to suit their needs. Green and sustainable features in our homes will be of the highest environmental standards. In 2035, Kingston's many communities will be active, engaged and continually learning. Kingston will be a city of many different neighbourhoods, evolving but connected by a strong sense of community and place. These harmonious neighbourhoods will be safe and friendly, defined by local activities that connect people of all ages, abilities and cultural backgrounds. The past will be honoured as we move forward. Well-preserved historical buildings, memorials and artefacts will celebrate our living heritage, connection to the past and our distinctive identity.
The community will grow and connect through a sustainable network of groups, clubs and service organisations staffed by well-coordinated and trained volunteers. Volunteering will be strongly supported, highly valued and enhanced by access to a range of resources and opportunities. We will celebrate and socialise through local and citywide festivals, markets and community events that are highly regarded through Kingston and beyond. These will be affordable and superior quality, reflecting the high regard for Kingston. Everyone in Kingston will have access to lifelong learning programs, innovative services and online technologies. Libraries, community centres and neighbourhood houses will be local providers of these vital services and connections. These facilities will have flexible spaces to accommodate all varieties of community groups and individuals. These community groups and businesses will have access to strategic and practical information and services available in multiple languages and formats. Thriving business networks will offer learning, training and employment opportunities, responsive to local needs and engaged worldwide through online technologies.
In 2035, Kingston's high-quality facilities, services and educational institutions will support a healthy, diverse community. Quality community facilities for activities will be distributed throughout the municipality and well used by many different groups. Activity and health will be encouraged through sport and recreation opportunities, excellent sporting facilities and precincts, and open spaces that are clean, safe and appealing. From birth to old age, residents will be encouraged and inspired to reach their potential, contribute positively to society and secure their health and well-being. This commitment to fulfilling lives will begin with our children, who will be able to grow and learn locally with access to quality childcare, kindergartens, schools. Training opportunities for young people will provide important opportunities for developing their lives. Older people will be valued, contributing members of the community and enjoy innovative services, activities and choices to support positive ageing. Shade and seated areas with clean and easy to find amenities such as picnic facilities and toilets will make our beaches, parklands, playgrounds and sporting fields hubs of activity for people of all ages, abilities and fitness levels. Residents, workers and visitors will talk about the exciting cultural and leisure projects and events showcased in Kingston.
In 2035, moving around Kingston will be easy and efficient on any mode of transport. Transport connections will be a strength in Kingston's enviable lifestyle. People will be able to travel all around the municipality and connect with Melbourne and the Mornington Peninsula without a car. Public transport and cycling and walking tracks will be designed and connected to maximise mobility. Our transport networks will be safe, clean and reliable as a result of strong partnerships between council, government agencies and industry. Cycling will be popular and practical. Cycling paths that connect our neighbourhoods and bicycle parking facilities at transport hubs and shopping precincts will place environment-friendly transport at the heart of the city. Pedestrians of all abilities will enjoy safe travel around their neighbourhoods, shopping precincts, recreational spaces, roads and railway crossings in Kingston. Traffic will travel efficiently through Kingston on carefully managed major roads and dedicated truck routes. Our local streets will be safe and free from commuter traffic. Our local economy, industrial precincts and businesses will benefit from our efficient network of road, rail, air and water transport and will be an employment hub for the region.
In 2035, we will enjoy our beautiful green city and proudly share it with others. Our safe and clean beaches, parklands, green wedge and beautiful open spaces will underline Kingston's enduring character of healthy natural environments. Our Indigenous plants and animals will be at the centre of initiatives to preserve and protect flora and fauna through education and personal leadership at home and right across our city. Landfill operations will not have a place. We will be an example of a community recycling and reducing our waste. Families, friends and pets will enjoy our open spaces, particularly our beaches. A shared appreciation of our surroundings will promote clean environments free from litter and graffiti. Beautiful trees and greenery will feature in our open spaces and along our roadways, nature strips, at railway stations, shopping strips and industrial estates. There will be an abundance of fruit trees and community gardens. All parts of our city will be aesthetically appealing. Attractive housing and streetscapes, appealing shopping strips, clean industrial areas and tidy beaches will be enhanced by vibrant public art. Our city will bring people together. Kingston spaces will be a popular place to connect. Our cafes, shops and appropriate nightlife will showcase a safe, thriving and healthy social culture.
Now, how do we bring this vision to life? Through partnerships between the community, private industry, council and not-for-profits. We all have a part to play. To find out more, visit www.livingkingston.com.au.
Thank you, Julie, for your presentation, and thank you for everyone involved in that video, because in 7 or 8 minutes that captured so much and so many of the ideas and thoughts that went in there. And I'm sure it brought back some memories from what we've got now as to perhaps the new horse monument down on Parkdale Beach. I noticed the old, I thought it was the old Gilby's Gin Factory on the P&O Highway in Moorabbin, the Saints footy ground down at Moorabbin. There was a whole range of things that we could relate to that are in the past and perhaps in the future. So it'll be good to look back. When we first saw the drawings that were involved in that, some of us scratched our head, and then we looked deeper and thought, yep, they've captured all the thoughts. And when the team put it into a video, that was the end result, and I think a fantastic production. I'd now like to introduce our key speaker for tonight, Simon McKeon. Simon is a businessman, sportsman, philanthropist, and of course, as I said before, the 2011 Australian of the Year. Over a decade ago, when Simon was diagnosed with MS, he decided that he needed to make every day count. And even though he had a very successful corporate career, he took a part-time role as an executive chairman of the Macquarie Group in Melbourne. And that enabled him to support a whole range of causes that included joining boards of World Vision Australia. He's a director of the Global Poverty Project, volunteers as a counsellor for heroin addicts down in St Kilda, and works with the Red Dust Role Models, working in remote Indigenous communities. And we've just experienced NAIDOC Week in Kingston and had the opportunity to attend several functions involving members of our Indigenous community, and it's great to see the different aspect you get when you have a close encounter, I guess, with someone from the far north of Australia who doesn't normally get down to places such as Kingston. Together with the crewman Tim Dutto, Simon has held for a fairly lengthy time the world speed sailing record for sailing. He's a leading social entrepreneur. Simon also shows how business and philanthropy can work hand in hand in supporting those in need in our community. So ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Simon McKeon.
Thanks very much, Ron, for that very, very warm welcome. And can I just say that I'm also going to repeat the acknowledgement of some of the not so much important people in the room, but people that have led to tonight happening. And I'm doing that for a particular reason, not just because it's commonplace to acknowledge people like that, but it's actually, in as much as anything else, them that I want to talk about tonight. I want to talk about how does someone in the year 2013, how does a group of people lead an entire community forward? So I am going to acknowledge Elizabeth Miller, member for Bentley, Monica Blady, representing Mark Dreyfus, member for Isaacs, Attorney General, Mayor Ron Brownlees and your other fellow councillors, Community Vision Reference members. We've heard from one or two, but Don McDonald, Julie Wynn, Christine Stevenson and the others. Council staff, especially Sarah Bishop, who has been very helpful in giving me a lot more background to tonight than perhaps one or two of you have had. And I want to say right from the outset that to some extent it's good that I'm an outsider. What do I mean by that? I've never quite lived in Kingston. I've been close to it most of my life, but never quite. I was born and raised in Dandenong, just to the east. Spent much of my life living in Bayside, just to the north. Nowadays, spend as much time as I can just to the south, down on the peninsula. But Kingston's always been an important place for me. I've travelled across it. I had my first student employment in the factories of Kingston. Some of my closest friends still live here. I travel through here regularly, week in, week out. I've sailed at each of the 4 yacht clubs that are in the city of Kingston, swam at your beaches. Indeed, for many years, Ron, we actually built these world's fastest sailboats in a backyard shed in Mordialloc, just 5 minutes away from here. Everyone has their own stories in this room of attachment to this particular part of the world. And why do I say it's a good thing that I actually come from outside? Because in having been informed of what this extraordinary document is and what lays behind it, I can actually tell you, don't take it for granted. It's not as if it happens everywhere. It certainly doesn't happen in business, and I would dare to suggest it certainly doesn't happen around the world in the way that you have done it here. And that's what I want to emphasise tonight. That having the extraordinary richness, diversity, the fullness of opinion that has come from your community of 150,000 people, it's that as much as anything else which allows good leadership to happen. It's that as much as anything else which allows your community leaders to make good decisions so that in 2035 people can talk with continuing pride about this wonderful place. You know, tonight is not, I think, just a launch. It ought to be a night of celebration. It's not the end of the road, not the end of the journey, not at all. But tonight is, I think, highly appropriate to celebrate at least the end of this particular chapter, condensing, refining, distilling all of those thousands of views that have been put through to council. I think it's an extraordinary result. As I said before, I've had the benefit of talking with Sarah and finding out a whole lot more about the process than is actually written or recorded in this document. And I do commend everyone, whether councillors, paid staff, volunteers, contributors, the reference group, etc., that has put this all together. Now, these sorts of documents nowadays are, in one sense, commonplace. The corporate world is full of glitzy corporate documents. Indeed, the secret often is to distill really whether or what's gone behind them, because there's an industry that's, I guess, grown up certainly in my lifetime that is trained to write these sort of documents so that every organisation that I'm aware of can hand out a glitzy annual report, a strategic statement, you know, whatever, a vision, whatever it is. But it's only when you take the time to really read them carefully do you know whether they're documents of substance or not. And again, I say don't take for granted the fact that this is yet another glitzy public document. It's not. Its foundation is literally tens of thousands of hours, much of it contributed voluntarily by the community at large. Nowadays, you know, we often worship, I guess, our corporate leaders. They get paid millions of dollars and they think they lead large organisations. Some of them are fairly large. Coles and Woolies employ around 100,000 people each. But Kingston actually has 150,000 people in it, and the community leadership team as a whole, councillors, CEO, etc., are actually, I would argue strongly, in charge of a much bigger enterprise than any of our largest corporations in this country. I want to spend a few minutes tonight actually talking about what does that entail, what does it mean. It inevitably gets into politics. I'm not going to talk tonight about two-party politics. I'm not in any way qualified to talk about that, but I am going to talk a little bit about what does it take to actually be an effective public leader, not someone running a Coles or a Woolies, but actually trying to be the steward of the environment in which 150,000 people live. But I want to park that to one side. I want to tell a little story that I don't tell all that often. I actually don't talk much at all about being Australian of the Year. I still find it awkward. I don't understand really why I was chosen. There are many, many more qualified people than me. But I was standing on a stage a couple of years ago in Canberra. There were 200 or 300 people in front of us, and I was one of 8 finalists from the other states and territories, and the Prime Minister opened an envelope, and inside it was my name. And just at that point, there was an older lady in this audience who stood up and with a clenched fist said, "Yes!" And she had slightly bedraggled hair, and perhaps some people didn't know what was going on. It was a bit of an odd thing to happen. And just at that point, Channel 9, that were doing the live broadcast around the country, went off to a quick ad break. And Julia Gillard said to me, "Do you know that lady?" And I said, yes, I do. She's my only sibling. She's an older stepsister. Her name is Di, and she has an intellectual disability. She's had it since she was born. And Julia, but for her, I wouldn't be up on this stage today. I'm going to park that story. I'm going to leave you in suspense as to what that has got to do with what we're talking tonight, and I'll come back to it in a minute or two. I have a privileged existence. As Ron said, I gave up working full-time quite some years ago, and now I am indulged in all sorts of fabulous campaigns and things that I'm passionate about. I actually do spend lots of time in Canberra with politicians at all levels, federal, state. In fact, this afternoon I note that Elizabeth Miller is representing the Minister Waldridge, and I spent most of the afternoon with Mary Waldridge on an NDIS engagement task force. And, you know, some people might say, gosh, you know, why do I do so much? I do it because it's just damn fun and fulfilling and rewarding, and I've got the ability to do it. And not only that, but I tend to mix every day, every week, with thoroughly inspiring people. But some of those people are community leaders, many of them are. They're elected. And I guess what I find interesting is that we as a community don't regard particularly highly our politicians. I hope I don't say anything tonight offensive, but I think every now and then, and perhaps it's easy being an outsider, but I do want to tackle what I think is a tough subject. If you look at what the Reader's Digest released just 2 or 3 weeks ago, every year they come out with a report on who do we trust. And they slice and dice our professions into 50 different areas. And right up the top, we have people like ambulance workers and nurses and teachers and doctors and what have you, and they're our most highly regarded professions. And then right down the bottom, and I mean right down the bottom, just one place above door-to-door salesmen, politicians. And I actually don't quite get that. Of course I do get it. I didn't come down in the last shower. I know that taking the mickey out of politicians is an Australian sport. But I have to say, we need to be careful about being like that too much. I think last night, you know, I turned the telly on just to see the last few minutes of this amazing Liverpool victory match, and our very young side, that looked as if they were in primary school, you know, did a fabulous job at holding Liverpool to 2. But of course I was also there to see the ceremony at the end. And there were a handful of dignitaries acknowledged, the coaches and the managers and some sponsors and what have you. And when our Premier's name was mentioned, there were boos that came from the 90-odd thousand people in the MCG. Now, I'm one that thinks it's okay to boo the umpire on a Saturday afternoon in an AFL match, because they do get it wrong so often. But seriously, I don't think that, you know, as a nation, we're in any way mature, irrespective of which side of politics we vote for, when we so readily boo our elected leaders. The reason that, you know, I'm one of the last people who ever criticised politicians is that, in truth, I myself have never ever had the stamina to be an elected official. I've never had the willingness to put myself up for re-election every 2 or 3 or 4 years for such a position. I don't have a thick enough skin. I'm actually someone who admires community political leaders. I'm someone who actually has the privilege to spend some time with them and understand that for the most part they are overwhelmingly people who are just interested in trying to get the right result. Yes, sometimes they have egos a little larger than ours. Sometimes they have to work within a party machine that people like me don't necessarily fully understand. But by and large, they are there, in my opinion, for the right reasons. If anyone had spent the afternoon with me, with Mary Waldridge, they would come away and certainly not rank a politician 49 out of 50. A while ago at the last state election, I was standing in a voting queue waiting to vote, and there was a couple in front of me, and they were talking in a voice that was slightly louder than I would have expected, but it was pretty obvious they were Labor voters. They were a couple that both seemed to use the Frankston train line regularly, and they were talking openly about their voting intentions. I tried not to listen, but it was pretty hard to avoid it. And they were somewhat annoyed at the reliability of what have you, of what occurred on the Frankston train line, and they said, you know what, I think we need to make a protest vote today. Labor will still get in, that's what the polls are saying, but we're going to send our little message. I think we can say in hindsight that there were many such people like that. And why do I mention that tonight? Actually, I'm interested in public transport. I've commuted via that medium all my entire life. I actually just enjoy it. I came here and tonight on the 446 out of Flinders Street, came to Parkdale. Well, there are many reasons why I choose to use public transport, but I think one of them is that actually I like a dose every day of being with blue-collar workers, white-collar workers, unemployed, unskilled, people with issues, disabilities, intellectual and physical, occasionally people that are deranged, people that are intoxicated, the entire fabric of life commute on our trains. And for me, I don't find it a difficult experience. It's part of life. It's part of being connected. It's part of being informed. So whatever I'm doing from time to time, I'd like to think that I'm a bit more in touch with so much of what our community is experiencing. I was actually offered a car ride here tonight. I decided not to take it. I didn't need someone to drive me here tonight. The train was perfectly good. Interestingly, several weeks after Labor lost the last election, a couple of the ex-cabinet ministers were talking to me once and opining as to what had gone on in that interesting election. And I just made the comment, I said, you know, for my part, I think it would have been a good idea if there'd been a bit of a rule that cabinet ministers, in fact, all politicians, tried once a week, once a fortnight, to actually spend some time on the peak hour commuter train or tram or bus, because one learns a lot. What am I emphasising this for? Simply because to be an elected official, to be a community leader, one loses an enormous amount of time. It's a full-on job. But that is no excuse, in my opinion, to take all of our information about how to lead a community from newspapers, focus groups, minders, whatever. Sometimes we need to taste it for ourselves. And the number of things that I've learnt, absorbed over the years simply by sitting on a train, standing on a train, have been invaluable for me. Tonight, in this night of celebration about the launch of LivingKingston 2035, rarely have I seen a more concerted effort for a council to reach out and be connected with the community that it's serving. I'm often asked to talk about leadership, and people want me to talk about, you know, what is an appropriate leadership style for a particular circumstance. You know, is it forthright leadership, inclusive leadership, leadership by example, leadership through oration, etc., etc. I always take the opportunity to say, look, that's all very interesting, what style of leadership, but at the end of the day, if the leader doesn't know what the group that he is leading is wanting, what the group is thinking, what the group is expecting, if the leader is simply leading in isolation, that is the most dangerous leadership of all. The trouble is that to be informed takes time. It takes time to consult properly. And many of our leaders today sadly think that there is no time, that the 24-hour news cycle in particular, it's important to come out quickly. And how many illustrations can I think right across the broad spectrum of human activity has leadership sometimes let us down so much? We worship Anzac Day every year, but of course much of that was founded on the disastrous decisions made largely by the British military leaders who were disengaged, not connected, didn't know what was happening on the front line of the Australian front lines above Anzac Cove. Kodak is really no longer a household name as its leadership became disconnected with its frontline sales force and what a discerning consumer in a digital age was requiring. I referred to Reader's Digest just a few minutes ago. Reader's Digest went into bankruptcy earlier this year. Again, not sufficiently connected understanding what the digital age was holding for it. And perhaps even one of the many, many reasons why a state Labor government lost the last election is that it perhaps wasn't as connected with three critical train lines, Dandenong, Frankston and the eastern suburbs, where voters did vote with their feet. The effort behind this document tonight has been enormous. I won't repeat the stats that you've already heard, except to say, more than 1,500 surveys submitted by the community, 4,000 votes on that online voting platform, 13,000 separate ideas came in, and that all had to be distilled down to 100 broad wish statements. And where does all this lead? Well, I guess in a practical sense and in a short-term sense, it leads to the council's strategy. They call it the council plan, 2013-17. Most organisations have such a medium-term strategic plan. That, of course, in turn informs the current budgeting process and ultimately what occurs day to day. Indeed, whenever council deliberates, whenever council staff are trying to make a decision, at the back or forefront of their minds ought to be this extraordinary document distilling so much valuable information. It's very rich, it's very broad. I actually don't need to speak on it tonight. It speaks through very clear language for itself, but its themes are compelling and relevant. I'll only mention a few themes tonight, but the ageing and growing population, I could speak for an hour on that alone. Too often we see the issue of ageing and growing populations only as a threat and a challenge. And the more that as a community we see the extraordinary opportunity of the elongation of this species, and never in the evolution of this world have we seen a species change so rapidly. In 100 years, our life expectancy's gone from 49 to 84 and is continuing to increase. But it's not just what do we do with old people, it's how do we empower, what can we expect of an ageing and increasingly well and active, mentally alert part of our society. Focus on waste collection, recycling, beach management, and the issue of low-lying areas. As chairman of CSIRO, we have great difficulty sometimes talking frankly about what climate change and increasing water levels might mean for low-lying communities. Kingston has its fair share of that. But the more a community is receptive to that and talks logically and practically about what we do, the greater the chance that we have of not having a repeat of issues that we've seen overseas, such as in the US. Community facilities. I got off the train tonight and I was a few minutes early. I wanted to get my thoughts together. How wonderful just to wander into a place I've never wandered into before. Parkdale Library. Smiling face at the front door. Come on in. We take these sort of facilities so often for granted, but every local authority around the state and the nation is producing these things. Transport, natural environment, the importance of volunteering. That ageing population is a vast resource waiting to be used constructively with appreciation for so many community needs. A growing Kingston charitable fund, again I could speak for an hour on the importance of that sector as well. And of course I've only just touched the surface. Of course one of the exciting things is that you've allowed yourselves to dream long term. We don't do that terribly often. I was asked last year by the federal government to do a report into health and medical research in Australia, and I was allowed to think forward for 10 years. That's an indulgence that the corporate world and certainly the world of politics doesn't often to give us. But it is important to take the time to think long term every now and then. Interestingly, around the world, particularly in the developing world, places like China start by thinking long term and end by thinking short term. We often feel very disconnected to the federal government. We read about it on the front pages of the newspapers every day, but it's a long way away. It makes decisions that don't necessarily directly affect us constantly. The state gets a bit closer. It provides schools, hospitals, a police force. But not a day goes by where typically there's not some interaction or appreciation for what goes on at the local government level. They collect our rubbish twice a week. The roads, hopefully, are well maintained and open. The local government here has got a vision. The council vision is a diverse, dynamic community where we all share a sustainable, safe, attractive environment and a thriving economy. Now that's great, that's a great set of words, but actually what does it mean for us as individuals? Well, I've got an answer to that, because I think such a vision, providing such an environment, means that we as individuals can actually, and all of us, lead a rewarding and fulfilling life with lots of opportunities to get back. And deep down, surely we all aspire to be happy in some way, and happiness, I'm sure, starts with feeling that we are relevant, that we're fulfilled, that we're doing something of value, and of course living in a place that supports all of that. I referred to my sister Di a while ago and said that she had an intellectual disability. She's married to someone of a similar intellectual age, probably around 12, each of them. They live independently, they live on the Mornington Peninsula, they do their own shopping, they make many of their own decisions. They occasionally go for a swim on a hot day if they feel like it. They can be very funny in their own ways, and they in fact very positively impact on the lives of many people that interact with them. On one analysis, they should have been institutionalised many years ago. Put away, looked after by our standards, but in many respects, many of their decision-making capacity taken away. One of the reasons that they live a relatively independent life is because of the support of local government. A local government that provides many of the things that they need: weekly care, provision of parks, the maintenance of beaches, assistance for transport, assistance of various groups that they're involved in, particularly senior citizens. My stepsister and her brother-in-law do not take any of these for granted. We all have our own needs and wishes and expectations of a local government. And what I certainly do hope as this next election, federal election, approaches, is that we have the opportunity as a nation as a whole to have embraced in the Constitution the importance, relevance and appropriate funding of the sector of local government. Again, I commend everyone who's had anything to do with this extraordinary document. I repeat, do not take it for granted. Don't think that you're just doing what every other local authority around the state or the nation is doing. It's extraordinarily significant. The importance is to actually retain, or in fact to note that its title is Living Kingston 2035. It has to be a living document. There will be the need for further consultation as the years go by, feedback. Councillor Brownlees is absolutely right. It's important to have a vision, to have a plan and to march forward. I would just add to that slightly, and to be reflective of the fact that we live in a dynamic world. Things change a bit. And to continue to keep in touch in the way that this council has in recent months with its community. And one day when I'm 80, I hope that perhaps I can still get out in a little boat and sail off either Carrum or Chelsea, Parkdale or Morty Alley, enjoy your beaches, and perhaps look back, because that will be 2035, to a time quite some years ago when this document was put in place and the community made a commitment to try and keep this part of the world as precious and well sustained as it can be. Thank you very much.
Well, what a diversity of thoughts, experiences, and what a great example of how a clear vision where people work together collaboratively can lead to significance and achievements and outcomes. Obviously, Simon has experienced those things. I only go on the train when I go to the football at Etihad Stadium. That's an experience. Coming home is even better. But it does remind us that it is a passing parade of community life and expectations on a train, and perhaps we all should do it more often. There's certainly lots of suggestions and lots of ideas about our direction in the future. And Simon, again, thank you very much for those great words, particularly about local government. Local government and any other governments, you're right, they do rank down the bottom with some people. Most people are in it not for themselves, they're in it for the right reasons, and that doesn't quite often get recognised. So why is a vision important to council, and what's our role? We're not required to produce a community vision. It's not required in the Act. We produce an annual report, which won the best in Australia this year. We're very proud of that because it did the right thing. For those of you who don't know, the award we achieved for the best annual report, and we've won a gold award for the past 5 years, but we beat all the big organisations in Australia because, as the judges said, we didn't just tell them all the good things we'd done. We also told them where we didn't reach our goals or our achievements and told them why. We didn't hide anything, it was open and it was transparent. As I said, we're not required to produce a corporate plan, but we believe it to be an important part of our community engagement and our partnership, words that we refer to quite a lot in Kingston, because it will provide us with direction for the council, not just for now, but in the long term and in the future. The vision and research has already been used to help us develop some of our key priorities and strategies in the next 4 years, as Simon referred to in our corporate plan, our council plan. A good example of having a vision is this building. Most of you, some of you, will remember what it was like only a couple of years ago. Thanks to a partnership and a community idea and suggestion and council vision, it was a very old building. It was originally a knitting mill or a yarn mill that made, at one stage, parachutes during the war, and was then transformed by the former Morty Elliott Council into a community theatre, and it progressed along and it did its thing. And again, as Simon said, you've got to be prepared to change things and move things along a bit. It sat there, it did its thing, it was lovely for the local community, it was very comfortable, but it certainly didn't meet the standards of what we required today. It was very unsafe, if I remember, when we visited and looked out the back. So council had a vision, it had a plan, it then addressed it in partnership with, again, the support of the state government and the community. It was transformed into this fantastic, high-quality community facility that we have today, all because we decided to have a vision. And I'm really pleased to be here tonight as part of your function, because it is your function, to launch our council 4-year strategic plan 2013-17 with, of course, the vision. It's part of the overarching One Vision document that you all received tonight, and we will go on and review that vision, but we'll certainly use it, as was explained, in planning our future. Over the next 4 years, we'll focus on 6 key goals which will closely align with those in the Kingston 2035 vision. And underpinning each of these goals is a series of outcomes, which I think articulates what Council wants to achieve and the strategies on how we're going to achieve them. Some of them are, and that's what we want and the community wants. They want facilities that are well used and accessible. We're going to do that by continuing to grow and develop the facilities in the spaces we have and increase them where possible. We're going to progress development of our community hubs. We've already started that process in Barkdale and Edithvale. We're going to better manage and improve the buildings and facilities that we have, as I said, and increase the opportunities for access by our community. We want to see green wedges planned and improved for future generations. We're going to continue to advocate for removal of the landfill sites that are there at the moment, a blight on our community, but part of history, the tip sites and the landfill sites came because they were quarries and people needed the sand to build the buildings we live in. It progressed. We now have to move on from that. We're going to develop the chain of parks. We want to facilitate connected and effective community groups, and we'll do that by community engagement, and we also want it to be an effective voice for our community. These are just some of the examples on how our council, through delivery of the plan, will contribute to the future vision of Kingston. Over the next 4 years, we'll report back to the community. We plan to do it quarterly and then every year through our annual report. But of course, what happens after 4 years? How will the vision be kept alive and how will it evolve to stay relevant? It needs to be reviewed. I think Simon again said that. You can have a plan, but it changes just as the community changes. It changes every year. It's planned, of course, for an integration of the LivingKingston 2035 vision and the Council Plan 2013-17 into one document. And that one document will be called One Vision. This means it will always be at the front of our thinking and our processes. There is always a strategy in a council plan that ensures it will be kept and reviewed and updated. That's part of the process. And through all of this, and of course, it's hoped that by everyone's continued engagement and involvement, you will ensure, our community, that it's kept alive because it's your work. It's not ours as a council, it's the community's work. As was highlighted, all those ideas and all that work came from the community. As I said, there are 3 reference panelists going to make a presentation tonight. I'd now like to welcome our third presenter, Christine Stevenson, who's going to tell us how you can get involved. Christine.
Supposed to be a new knee. It doesn't seem to be working tonight. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Ron. My name is Christine Stevenson, and I'm one of the 30% who live in Kingston who were born overseas. I became a new Australian about 25 years ago, and I have lived in Kingston for around 19 of those years. I was drawn to Kingston because it reminded me of my homeland, where I had always lived close to the beach. And so I've come to Kingston because I enjoy walking on the beaches in the winter. I don't mind the cold wind and the grey skies and the sea as it blasts in your face. And in the summer, those beautiful warm evenings when you can spend the night sitting on the beach watching the sun go down, surrounded by families all enjoying the same thing. I have been fortunate that I've been able to work in the area for a few years, but predominantly I've been what I call a latch door resident, where I've left in the morning, probably before the sun's up, and come home at night. But 5 years ago I was retrenched, and I was suddenly given this wonderful opportunity to actually spend more time in Kingston and to start contributing to the local community. And I was very fortunate that I was able to participate in the governance of the Cheltenham Community Centre. They welcomed me in, and I've certainly enjoyed the time that I was able to spend working with them. And unfortunately, work has again taken me back out of the city of Kingston, and so I find that I have less time for that. However, I have been able to work with the reference panel, and I have thoroughly enjoyed every moment of it, as I know other members of the reference panel have. And we've heard from Simon tonight as he's been talking about the importance of the vision being a real document, of it being compelling and having engaging themes. And I believe that that's what we have produced. But now it's a case of bringing it to life and trying to make sure that it continues to live and grow over the next 20 years or so. There are many participants involved in bringing this vision to life and sustaining it, and a lot of them are in this room. Councillor Brownlees has spoken of the commitment the council has to the vision through the inclusion of the outcomes of the vision in the 4-year council plan. And as representatives and members of the Kingston Council community, you and I all have an opportunity to support and grow the vision. The vision has been dreamed, discussed, and finally written down. And I now hand the baton over to all of you to continue to individually and collectively make sure that the vision grows and is represented in the community. Basically, it's time to turn this project into a business as usual event. You have been given tonight, or if you haven't, please make sure you collect them on the way out. The document, together with a USB stick. And on this very small device is everything that you need to help spread the word of the One Vision, of the Living Kingston 2035. All the data and research is now just at your fingertips, or at least on the blue USB. There you can access written and video versions of the vision, a description of the research that's been sorted into 10 themes, detailed reports that came back from each of the wards that we visited and spoke to, and one overall report of every idea collected. When it's printed out, it truly stands about that thick, but on the USB you will be able to cut and dice and slice and spice to your little heart's content. The data and research is really important. When you combine this data with the vast demographic details that are already available on the Kingston Council website, you have an invaluable resource to help you and your organisation create plans and visions that will complement the Council's 4-year strategic plan and ensure that the outcome is in line with what they're planning for the next 20 years. If, as an organisation, you are applying for funding to the Council, I would strongly recommend that you use some of the data that is gathered, that you make sure that your funding presentations are in line with the vision that the Council has. Ensure that your requests complement Living Kingston 2035. As Councillor Brownlee said, you can track the progress of all the Council strategic plans on the website every quarter. There will be any number of plans that are subject to this vision. And so their overall performance and adherence to the Living Kingston vision will be reported in the annual report every year. But to succeed, the community must also commit to the vision's principles. Finally, thank you to all who have participated in this project. The result is yours to own, and as Simon said, you should all celebrate the success. But to be truly successful, we all need to continue to work together, council, community and private sector. We need to use the information wisely and continue to grow and provide the community with everything that they want, they enjoy, love, and that they can be proud of. So finally, please take the packs back to your community, share the vision, use the data, plan big, think the impossible dream, and above all else, enjoy Living Kingston from now to 2035. I thank you for your attendance and support. And finally, as a member of the reference panel, I would like to thank the Council for granting me and the other members on the reference panel the opportunity to participate. We have all enjoyed the journey, and I think we've all grown along the way. But finally, my personal thanks to all the staff who have participated on this journey with us. It's been a pleasure working with you, and it's been wonderful getting to know my council. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Christine. Living Kingston 2035 excuse me, promises to leave us a lasting legacy for our community. And as you reflect on tonight, I encourage you all to think about what part of the legacy you can contribute to and how you can be involved, because that's how we make it happen, by getting involved. It was mentioned earlier about change. Our community's changing. We heard about ageing populations. You know, we've got a wonderful medical technology out there and the advancements where people are living not only to an older age, but we're living it more actively and doing more things I thought, gee whiz, 35 years ago, my parents wouldn't have thought that I would be up here doing this now at my age. It just wasn't done. We now have a younger community who are also, they go out at midnight now. We're all going home, going to bed. We see them at the nightclubs queuing up to get in, or going home at 7 in the morning. It's a different life. Whether it's better or not, who knows? But it creates change, and we have to manage that change and make sure that all those conflicts that occur, we manage them so there's no disbenefits, but there's advantages for us all. We look around now, we've got CCTV cameras everywhere. We can't really walk anywhere without thinking, who's watching? Am I going to do the wrong thing? We shouldn't be afraid of them. We should do our normal things. If we're doing everything fine, everything will be okay. They're only there to apprehend the lawbreakers and make sure that our lives are safer and our communities are better. Before I invite you all to join us for supper tonight, I'd like you to join me in thanking, firstly, our three presenters, Don McDonald, Julie Wynn, Christine Stevenson, and our special guest who gave us a great insight and I'm sure shared some great thoughts with us, Simon McKeon. Thank them all very much. As we've heard, that one of the things that the group did was reach out, and they were different people. One of the key objectives was we have lots of community groups in Kingston that we consult with, but this was a chance to get 10 different ideas, 10 different people, and we couldn't have chosen 10 better people. Their commitment and their time that was given and the sacrifices they made to go out to our community day and night, weekends, from their families to get that information and be part of it was just absolutely fantastic. I mean, councillors do it because it's part of our role. There's an expectation, but for these people who wanted to join and be involved, so I really do to all of them say thank you, and in particular the rest of the group that were involved, apart from the three presented, the other community reference panel members. And if I could have the lights up, please, because I'd like these people to stand up so you can all see them. As well as I said, as Don, Julie and Christine, there was Russell Rees, Dr Elizabeth Flan, Paul Ditchburn, come on, all stand up, Paul Phillips, Jacqueline Russell, Dr Robin Cochran, and there were of course my council colleagues, John Ront, Jeff Gledhill, Rosemary West and Steve Taylor. To thank them because it was a fantastic effort. Well done. And they were supported during the process by Anthony Basford, Sarah Bishop and Morgan Henley. In these productions don't just happen. All that paperwork, all that bookwork, there was a team behind that of council staffs, our media team, that guided us through it, got us through tonight and where we are. So their efforts over the past year, as I said, it made it happen. It's brought it to a reality. It's been fantastic from my point of view. I guess I've been very fortunate in being closely involved with it over the 2 years. Remember, Kingston is great thanks to you. We'll continue to grow. I said it was a living 2035 document, but really is a loving 2535 because we all love Kingston, we've all contributed. Some of the things Simon said, yeah, we've got our beaches, our parks, our bike trails, we're getting there. But all the things we've got, that's what makes Kingston great. Thank you all for joining us and sharing tonight. Have a safe home and join us for supper out in the foyer. Thank you very much.